what would be like a key piece of advice that you would give to a young creative person beginning their pursuit?
I mean, that always changes. I bought this necklace. This is the reason why I'm bringing this up. I brought this chain at Slauson Flea Market down on the south side, and it's a cuckoo clock. It's a little teeny cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it stood out to me. It's like some weird little chain.
Yep.
But the reason why I'm wearing it is because a lot of times in my career, so many people said I was crazy. Like, you're crazy, you're cuckoo, you're whatever. So like, I've always heard that with everything, with like so many different things, whether it's the mashup stuff or the trap stuff, there's all these points in my career or whatever it is of my creative process where people didn't see it the way I saw it, but I saw it this way. And maybe I'm not, my batting average isn't 100, but I still was doing it for me. And there was times I was doing it for other people too, and it didn't work. Yep. But the times I did it for the cuckoo crazy side of me, that is what meant the most for me in the long run. And I just trusted myself. So trust yourself, develop your taste, and just believe in yourself. And you might be cuckoo sometimes, but that's okay.
The thing I was the most curious about, because like I followed what's happening with you and, you know, the music offering and all that for years, but I actually don't know, like, I know Chicago, but like, I don't know the beginning. I don't know, like, like where, like, take me to the very beginning of, like, you know, there's music in the house, or, you know, you hear music, like, you know, where does it start?
So for me, I mean, my parents got me a drum set when I was 11 years old. Mm-hmm. So I always just kind of was exploring music, just like by just playing around. It's always been play, even until 2024 today, where we are, it's like play. Yeah. And so even back then when I was 11, I was just like banging drums, trying to figure out rhythms and things like that.
Yep.
And then, you know, that was just having fun when I was a kid. And then my brother, okay, actually, to take it back a little bit more. So my dad, my whole life was like doing like the flea market circuit.
Yeah.
So he would buy storage units, go to estate sales and other flea markets and thrift stores and buy things. And then he would resell them at flea markets.
Yep.
And so in our house, we had a bunch of other people's VCRs, a bunch of other people's turntables, like random things. And my older brother, he ended up taking two of the turntables from some of my dad's hauls and put them together. And he went to a pawn shop and bought a little DJ mixer, a Gemini DJ mixer.
Yep.
And that was just in the house. And it was kind of cool because my dad had all this vinyl from other people's houses and storage units and stuff. Yep. And so we were just kind of like playing around on these turntables. And I was around 15 at this time, maybe like 14. It was before I could drive or anything like that.
Yep.
And so in the house, he had this mixer and I just used to play around. And on that mixer was a 10 or 20 second sampler. I think it was like 10 seconds. But you could take a Led Zeppelin record and just like take a little section of Led Zeppelin and loop it.
Yep.
And for me, that was just so cool. I was able to take a piece of someone else's music and then just loop it and then maybe add drums from like another song or things like that. And so I was always exploring with it, again, just in a play sense.
Yeah.
And then the thing that really pushed me into this stuff was I used to BMX and skateboard and do all the like extreme sports, but I tore my ACL and all of my friends were out skateboarding. And that summer I was just sitting at my parents' house and there was these turntables and I just like kind of leaned into the music a little bit more. And then in the same era, that's when like the home computers had sound cards and stuff. So I was able to like then take what I was doing on the turntables and translate it into the computer. And that was just kind of like catalyst of this. In that same era, it was like Beastie Boys were coming out with like Paul's Boutique, and they were doing a bunch of really cool things with sampling. So I got to see what you could do.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to experiment and figure that out myself. So that's kind of like the beginning of how I got into doing the music side of things.
Sure. And then born and raised Chicago?
So I was born 2 hours outside of Chicago in a place called Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay.
Kalamazoo, the cool thing about it, musically, geographically, is it is the halfway point between Detroit and Chicago. So during the automotive industry, that's why Kalamazoo became a city, because there was like parts getting shipped between the two major cities, but Kalamazoo is the midpoint. The cool thing musically is you had Detroit techno when I was growing up, and then you had Chicago house. So I got to have influences from both of those, and the music was coming to our local record store, and it was from both cities. So I was actually hearing music from both different places and understanding like Detroit had a genre called ghetto tech, and then Chicago had a genre called juke, which was like hip hop based, like really fast house music. And so a lot of that was just like influencing me at a young age. I was just like, what is this music? It was blowing my mind.
Right.
So I grew up in a really cool spot in the Midwest in the era of like the Bulls winning championships, the Pistons winning championships. It was just this like very fruitful era of culture around me. And it was definitely influencing me in all different ways, fashion and career, etc.
Sure. Were you DJing? Like, because you had the turntables, or was it just something like you were doing at home, or were you taking them out and like playing people's parties?
Yeah. And it's funny, man, I actually don't know if I ever said this, but my friend asked me this the other day. And so I actually used to DJ my high school dances. As just like, I did this thing where I brought my parents' Gateway Tower to the high school dances. I would play like an MP3 on Winamp. And then I would then have a CD player from like one of those CD players that has like, you could put like 6 CDs in it, and then you would like rotate through. And so I was crossfading with this mixer between the two of them. I wasn't blending or anything. I was just like playing like Freak Nasty to dip into like Tootsie Roll or something. And that was where it started. And then, so I was DJing, but not DJing. It was just kind of like the early ideas of that.
Yeah. I did the exact same thing.
It's amazing.
Like the exact same thing. So I was the school DJ, but I brought my parents' home stereo system. And I remember like the amp would blow after 20 minutes and it'd get quiet for a little while. And I had the exact same setup. What we did is we borrowed the mixer from the theater department that they would run their vocals on. And so I had, like 1/8 inch from the single CD player portable as one channel, my computer as another channel. And like, you're just downloading stuff from Napster and LimeWire. And I have said this before, but like, I remember my best friend, he was like, he would assist sort of in the DJing, and he would kind of keep things organized, and he would like hand me CDs of just like, Sandstorm. And it's like, no, not yet. Like what I know what that's going to do. And like, we got to hold that one. We got to hold that. And so I played like, school dances, basketball games, halftime, after football game, parties, but never like on turntables, but just always being the curator of, whatever the music would be. And I think that's like, it's so interesting too. Like, I skated growing up, but I was terrible. And like all my friends were really good. I remember thinking back then, like, oh, I'm going to be the filmer. Cause I'm not very good, but there's something about skating and like how you're trying to do a thing, and that thing is really, really hard to do. And it takes a level of discipline around that thing, and it could go terribly wrong. And there are consequences when it does, but you're doing that for art or to like, have a feeling or chase something that you're trying to accomplish. So I actually always say that like skaters turn creatives a lot of times are like my favorite, because they look at the world in a way where it's like, people would see this just as like a curb and a dumpster and, like whatever graffiti on a wall. And they see it as like opportunity to make art. So they can just look at something that looks, gross and grimy and just like, oh, I could make something really beautiful, out of that. So I just think it's now even hearing that part of your story, I'm like, oh, now a lot of this is like making even more sense for me. So then like, where does it go from like, you're kind of just playing, school dances and, that level of DJing to like, okay, now you're actually, taking the decks out and you're now going to go DJ.
Yeah. And I do want to say one thing on the skateboarding thing. It's, I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg thing. I think like us as creatives maybe gravitated towards skateboarding. I don't know. For me, it was just like, it was a way to express myself. It was almost like a martial art in a weird way, like where it was like, you like seriously rolled ankles hurt, like you just fall and you keep getting up and getting up and getting up, and then you level up. And that's also like martial arts. Like you keep getting beaten up and then you level up and you get your belts and things like that. But for me, it was like a self-trained martial art type of thing. And then like you said about looking at the world with the chicken or the egg thing, like it made me look at the world so different, like you said, but like, I don't know if that was innately in me, like as just a creative person, because I'm always looking at things differently. So I don't know, it was such a young age where I was doing all of this. I don't know which came first, but I definitely do to this day approach the world with a different approach and a very open approach too, because like, I don't know. There's like things that like, oh, I could grind that thing right there or whatever. And yeah, it might hurt a little bit, but I'm just going to keep trying to get that way and understand it. Maybe like there's like a conversation that happens with like, with the skateboarding and with like doing that, that I think happens with everything. Like, let's say it's someone has an opposing view of me, of something that I have. I still want to listen to their view and like, let's try to attack this. And like, let me look at it with a different angle. And I do that with like so many things. So I don't know which trained me to have this perspective, but I know that those do go hand in hand.
Talk to me about that though. Like why do you think that you personally, just in your experience, do you think it was something that you were born with? Or do you think that like just, nature versus nurture, the things that are around you and like, just what you were saying about sort of like this was happening with the music scene and just like friends and like, do you think that like a perspective like that is something that we are born with, or do you think that people are sort of made to have that perspective?
I think both can get learned. So you can be raised in an environment that keeps you pretty closed-minded and unopen, and then you can be raised in an environment that is more open. I think to lean into the skateboarding side of it, like a lot of my skateboarding friends, there were like kids that just listened to punk rock and did that, and then with the hip hop kids and then people that skated different ways and things like that. So there was a lot of eclecticism, or there's a lot of eclectic people within skateboarding and in that culture. So for me, it was like, oh, this dude's cool. Like, it doesn't matter he listens to punk. It doesn't matter he grew up in this part of town or whatever. It was just like, this is who this human is. And I get to learn from that. And so for me, I was just like open to everyone that showed up and how they express themselves. And to me, it wasn't even like I'm thinking, oh, they're expressing themselves. I was just like, wow, this person's approaching life differently.
Sure.
And on a personal level, so I grew up in a household with I have an older brother and my two parents. So it was like four of us in this household. So there was four of us with different perspectives. And the thing that's funny is my mother is very conservative Christian. Like everything is the Bible. Nothing else is outside of it. That's her views. My dad, super open-minded. He believes that humans are half chimpanzee DNA and half alien DNA.
Sure.
And then I have a brother who's actually schizophrenic. So his perspective, he actually has people he sees in his daily life.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up and I also have my own weird perspectives in life, but we all grew up in the same household, but I got to experience people's different perspectives within the household.
Yes.
And I think that actually was like, well, this is the way the world functions. And I get to see that in everyone else. So maybe me personally, I have a little bit more of a biased view on just like everyone's different, but I also gravitated toward those type of people too. Like the more closed-minded people I didn't gravitate towards, but like the skaters and the artists and those type of people were like just looking at life with a different perspective, and like everyone is teaching me things. So that was how I went about it personally.
Do you feel like, having that experience with your family, young you, do you feel like young you was empathetic to like, oh, they all have like different views and like, that's cool? Or was young you more like, I kind of have my own thing and like, they're on like a different wave? Like, what do you think it was like back then?
I don't think for me, it wasn't that they're wrong or I'm right or vice versa. I just think it was more just an openness to perspective.
Nice.
Yeah, that's where I came from.
And like close with family, like good relationship with like.
Oh yeah, like I think for me, like, I mean, a lot of creatives have their own traumas and stuff like that. So I think for me, my piece in that puzzle with everybody was I was the glue. Like I could go to my dad and relate 100% to him.
Yes.
My dad and my mom disagree.
Yes.
I could agree with my dad and agree with my mom and see both sides. So I was the glue there. And then same with my brother. He had his perspectives and I was just open to his. So maybe within each other they had clashes, but I was able to be the glue with everybody. And I think that's like kind of how I carry myself with a lot of things too.
Yeah, I had the exact same experience that like my siblings and I have three siblings. We could not be more different. You would never think that we were like from the same house. And, mom and dad, have a great relationship with them, love them so much, but our views were very different. But it was entertainment. So music and then movies was a common ground. And it was also a place where everyone was always happy. So like, the right song is playing, like everybody's happy. If like it's a really good movie, we're all watching, everybody's happy and there's no sort of like turmoil. And that's not, I don't realize that until I'm an adult and, sort of like what the love is. Even DJing was something that like, my mom, she would work really late and sometimes she wouldn't get home until, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. But we did have a tradition for a little while. She was, before she married my stepdad and then my siblings, it was just her and I for a little bit. She was a single mom. We had this tradition where when she would get home, she'd be like, okay, you can put on one record, but then we got to go like, read books and, be getting ready for bed. And so I'd go and look through her vinyl collection.
Amazing.
And like choose like, oh, what kind of day did she have? Wow. And like, oh, I think she needs like a Beach Boys record right now. Or actually, no, let's do like an MJ thing and we'll just have like a little dance party together, or like, oh, like really tough day. Let's just play something more chill and like just let her sort of like relax. So it really was, again, not something I realized until way later that I'm like, oh, this is where this love of like, let me see if I can take my observation or just listening and make a choice that could then impact somebody like in a positive way. But also even like digging. I remember like when, the era of like actually digging and like digging for records. Yeah. I'm like, there's something about this that I just love. Yes. I feel like I could just be an amoeba and like beat for hours and just stay and just like get all dusty and dirty. And like, I loved it because I'm like, oh, these are going to be my tools that like I can, use to make people happy.
Which is so cool. Cause you had that skill at a young age. You honed that skill at a young age. You got to see how like you emotionally connected to a record or maybe you were trying to figure it out at the time, but you were like at least doing it through your mom. You're trying to show her like, oh, well, like the Beach Boys thing, like let's like make your day. Maybe she wants this thing. And it was like actually a way you could curate a mood somatically, like through soulful connection through music, which is really cool. I love that.
Yeah. And so I think it's like, that's why like the nature versus nurture thing. I do think maybe I was born with like the ability to want to observe and want to listen like that and curiosity and all that. But I do think then you're presented with an environment and it's like, oh, I learned that I'm like, when everyone's laughing, that like things are cool.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like comedy movies and like, if they're like dancing and like, so yeah, I it's always so interesting to me of the like why we learn how to do the things we do and, like why we think that way. And so often it's sort of like our past and like the life that we've lived. And that's actually like when I talk with artists, like established artists or young artists, like the thing that I find myself talking about a lot is having the perspective, self-reflection and introspection to explore like why you're doing something and like, you've made a choice. And that's so interesting to me. We were talking about this a little bit before of just like the point of view. Yeah. Like, why do I have this point of view? Like I have this, when I hear Beach Boys records, I have a feeling about it, because I've had like this experience, but like what drives someone's taste, and why like you might gravitate towards like all these records sound the same. This one sounds different. Yeah. That one may be the one for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious as your, your younger self, you're, doing these different creative things and just kind of like experimenting in play. When do you feel like the taste component and the confidence around like making choices, when do you feel like that happened?
It's funny because I hear all these podcasts and stuff and people are like, oh, I'm trying to express myself or this did that. For me, I was emotionally aware, but not like consciously emotionally aware, if that makes sense. Like, so I was just doing all of these decisions based on just like how I felt. So if it was like, I heard like a little piece of a record or like this Beastie Boys song came out, I was like, whoa, and it made me feel a certain way. I just wanted to share that with people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like this is an expression of me, all of that stuff. Like I never even thought about it consciously. I just was like, yo, you got to check this out. Or we can get into like more of like my evolution into DJing, but even me scratching and starting to figure out how to scratch, I was like, whoa, I'm going to take this Jimi Hendrix record and like take this little piece of his guitar solo and scratch these little pieces of it. And I want to show that to my friends, like almost like as like a skateboard trick is like, yo, I spent like for me in the music side of things, I spent the past 3 months in my basement scratching this Jimi Hendrix thing and getting it to this point. Now I want to show it to you. Just like if I'm skateboarding and I'm like, yo, I've been sitting on this box trying to do this like grind to shove it off for months. And then now when I'm with my friends, I'm going to show them. And it's like, oh, and you get that like with music or skateboarding. They like slap the board on the coping.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
that camaraderie.
Yes.
And for me, it was like a similar thing with like the scratching or that type of stuff, or even like just playing a song in a car. It was like, yo, check this out. Look what I found. And it's like, I was showing a piece of who I am without like having to show who I am. Like it was just like a reflection of what I thought was cool or unique or like a honed chunk of my time focusing in on something. I got to express that. But I never thought of it as like, I'm expressing myself. I just thought of it as like, yo, check this out. I want you guys to react the way I reacted because this really blew my mind. I wanted to see what it does for you.
Tell me about those, like the little tribes. So like the skate friends, that's a small tribe. DJ friends and crew, like that's a little tribe. Is it that like you're trying to impress like your friends? Is it that like, well, I remember like how I felt is like I had like this group of like creative friends and I'm like, man, like she's like a professional break dancer and like that's what she does for a living. This dude's a jazz drummer and he shreds. I feel like I need to contribute something. If I'm going to be in with like these superheroes, I need to have some sort of like superpower thing that like I do. What was the driving force, do you think, for like, I want to show them this trick or I want to show them this scratch?
I don't know. It wasn't, for me, it's just more of like, I'm interested in this culture. Let me give a penny to the culture so I can take a penny from the culture. I don't ever want to go into any culture and just be a taker. I want to be able to contribute to it too. So like for me, it was more on that side of things. It was just like, oh, let me bring this idea to the table that I thought about. And so I can participate in your culture. Like a lot of people, their identity is wrapped up in culture. I've been part of so many things, whether it's mopeds, which we can maybe get into, or the NFT culture, all of these things. Like I've been really participating in these cultures, but it's not fully my identity. I don't, with any of these things, I don't say that I am this person. I really want to show up as Curt, as who I am as a human into all of these situations, but I also don't want to come into those cultures and take. I want to be able to contribute to and contribute a unique perspective that no one else has thought of. And so that's kind of what I've done with everything to what I'm doing now, but also what I did as like a youth. I was like, I'm going to show up. I'm not born into the culture, but I want to be part of this in a way, and I don't want to take. So that's kind of my motive with a lot of these things.
Ever wonder how to truly cut through the noise and get your music to a broader audience? The Cult Creatives is a niche agency servicing the communities and brands surrounding the spaces of music and fashion. Our unique backgrounds of being highly involved with some of the largest music and fashion brands in the world gives us a unique perspective on how to connect creatives with their audiences. We offer a variety of services including creative direction, design, photography, videography, and strategy. Head to thecultcreatives.com to learn more. The Cult Creatives, not to be replicated, but if you try, we wouldn't blame you.
What's the, like, I want to go back to contribute something to the culture, but something that's different and no one else has thought of.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why that sort of, that's because that's a position. Like, that's like something where it's like, well, I don't want to just like do it the way that like everybody else is, you know, already doing it. I want to come, and it's so crazy because like knowing you and like knowing all the different things that you have like had your hands in, I'm like, oh, even that makes sense that it's like, oh, you know, big room and electro house and maybe even, you know, bass music stuff is sort of what's happening. And then, you know, and we'll get into it, but like here comes trap. And it's like, well, that one's different. And like, that's not the thing. And, you know, we were talking, you know, before we started that like, I originally got like familiar with what you and like what you were doing at a party called Dim Mak Tuesdays. That was curated by Steve Aoki and the Dim Mak Records thing. And in this era, I was DJing. I was DJing two scenes. I was DJing like the indie dance scene, and then I was DJing like the bottle service clubs of Hollywood. And it was split like pretty much 50-50. Bottle service clubs, it was amazing. I like couldn't believe that I was, you know, I'm a 22, 23-year-old kid and like making, you know, the money I was making. And I'm like, whoa, like Cameron Diaz is hanging out over there. And, you know, there's Johnny Depp. And, you know, being a kid from a small town, I'm like, oh, this is insane. But like where I liked hanging out was Dim Mak Tuesdays and like, check your ponytail and, like these, like there were cool LA parties where like new music was happening. And it was almost like, it was like the opposite where you'd go to these bottle service clubs and it was like, you can't come in because you're not cool or, you don't have enough girls with you or whatever. And then these other parties were actually like, well, you can't come in because like, I don't know if this is really your scene. And there was people that would sort of check you at the door and, knowing sort of like who those people were. But I remember like watching you guys perform there. And in this era, I'm like I'm looking at AM and like A-Track and Z-Trip and I loved what Aoki was doing with like his curation and his choices with music. But it's like you guys came in and you were doing like 2x2 stuff, and it was like mega mashups. Like it was like, you're mixing things and not just like for the sake of mixing. Like it wasn't just like, oh, like here's stuff that it's like you could tell, like, and maybe because I'm also, DJing, I'm like, oh, whoa, like they're doing that one. That was the thing with AM is I think people would listen to like, oh, he's fun. And I'm like, no. What he just did with the wordplay of this thing, I'm like, this is crazy what this dude is doing. But yeah, that's where I became familiar with you. But even that was something, and yes, maybe like Beat Junkies and, like other turntablists had sort of done, 2x2, 2x3, but not in that scene and not that way. I do remember clocking that it was ultra different. Yeah. And like the vibe of the party was ultra different. And it was also like a party. Like it was like, it wasn't, sometimes you'd get DJs where it's like, oh, they have a specific thing that they're trying to say. They're from this part of the world or whatever. And like, that's cool. Like it's like, watching art, but like y'all, it was like a party.
That's cool.
But yeah, talk to me about like, that era and like it coming together and then like having that as sort of like, cool, I want to do this thing.
Yeah. And so it was a very similar setup in Chicago to like what you said. Like it's funny, you and I haven't had, we've always like kind of connected in these little brief moments, but there's a lot of similarities to like our backgrounds.
Totally.
And so in Chicago, it was a similar thing. There were like the downtown clubs that were like just house music or just like top 40.
Yep.
And those were like the like bottle service clubs, and they weren't allowing us to DJ there. So Josh and I, who were doing Floss at the time, we were like doing this mashup thing where it was like very eclectic, and we just didn't fit into these places. They didn't want us to play. So we just like did our own thing. We're like, well, let's just start our own party. If they're not going to allow us to do it, let's just do it ourselves.
Yep.
And we built it ourselves. And like the type of people that came out were just so eclectic. And it was like, you were listing all the genres we played. The genres of music that we played at the shows were indie dance to like hip hop to like house music, all of these things, but we like put it all into one set. So all of those people that like that type of music, which were all of my friends, they would come out to that as well because they liked all of that stuff. They liked hip hop. They liked all of those things. So it was like the demographic that showed up for those parties were into the more eclectic thing. They wanted to come and express themselves however they wanted. They wanted to be gay, straight, black, white, whatever.
Yep.
And those clubs downtown, they were just such a closed gate. They were like, you can't get in. You can't.
Right.
And we just wanted to make an environment where anyone can. You can come in. Even the bottle service people are welcome to come to this, but it was just, that was our whole thing. And even when we started to get bigger in that era, it was like, we didn't want bottle service. We didn't want all of the dancers and all of that stuff at our shows. It was like, no, this is going to push us back into the place we don't feel like we exist in. So we don't want to be part of that. We want to just like anyone can show up. And then it was kind of cool because we took the back door into those clubs. And then over time we got big and they wanted us to come there. Mm. And then we brought our friends to those clubs and then they didn't want it again. But for that, it was just like, yeah, we just had to do our own thing because we weren't able to do our own thing. And that's why we went that way.
Yeah. It's almost like a reaction.
Yeah.
So, and it's similar to like the party that we started. It was the same thing. Cause I had the experience that I had with the bottle service thing. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't really, what it was actually more around the curation of the music that like I was getting into electronic music and especially house. And if I played two songs back to back, like if I play not even like obscure European house records, like if I played World Hold On, back to back with The Egg by David Guetta, I would get the promoter in my ear and he'd be like, hey, listen, you got to go back to hip hop or you got to go back to mashups or, whatever. And I would just remember like, it's not, I understand he's got a party and like he's trying to do his job. But like for me as a creative person, I'm like, I wish I had a little bit more freedom, because I do think that they were enjoying, like this particular record and, those things back to back. And so that was like, oh, I just want to have a place where I can play whatever I want. Yeah. And so we started these like small, but the first one was like, I think the capacity was 30 people. And we were like stoked if 20 people came, and then it was 50. And then sort of like, it just goes, it goes from there. But is it like, are you thinking, I'm going to be a professional DJ and that is going to be like my thing and like my identity?
So I actually went to school for coding. Like we did like my degree is in interactive multimedia, which is like design and coding and things like that. And so I was kind of like, I graduated, I was doing web design and things, graphic design.
Yep.
And I graduated in 2004 from college. And in 2005, we started Flosstradamus, and I got flown out here to LA. Shout out Jesse Lee. He brought me out to play 2 parties. Him and Adrian Martinez, who used to manage Mastercraft and work at Puma at the time, they all did the 2 collab parties. One of them, I forgot what the Puma one was, but there was one Puma one, and then the other one was with them jeans at something.
Yeah.
I don't even remember, but I got flown out here, and we were still a duo as Flosstradamus, but like there was no budget. So I just came out solo.
Yep.
And I just remember they put me up in a nice hotel in Culver City. I was working at this web design job at the time, and I walked in my hotel room. It was the first time I ever got like flown out for anything. And I just looked in the mirror. I was like, holy cow. I get to be flown somewhere for something that I'm doing. And I was young in my early 20s, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pause this web design job for the summer.
Yep.
And then maybe I can travel a little bit because I'm young. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then now it's 2024, and it's 19 years later or something like that. So it's pretty crazy that like I just tried to pause it for the summer just to be able to do this. And then it became my career. But like I was never leaning into this to like, I want to be a superstar DJ or I want to do anything like that. I just just wanted to lean into traveling and exploring and doing that and just like having fun while I was still young.
When did it start to become, okay, we've done the curation, we've done the mashups. I do think now it's time to start making our own stuff. Yeah. Like talk to me about that transition.
Yeah. So just like when I was younger, exploring music and sampling and doing that type of stuff, I was doing that throughout the whole career with the mashups. Like the mashups were a form of learning how to produce. Like we were doing them live a lot of times. We were like blending, there's 4 turntables on stage. So we were doing a lot of this stuff live.
Yep.
But then we were like, let's start to like release these edits and put them on MySpace at the time.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we did. And so we did the first few mashups we straight up just did it on vinyl and recorded it. And like, it was like, we have a mashup we did with Twista and Sigo Rose. And that is just 2 records blended together, recorded, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and we were moving the vinyl real time. And so that was that. And then I was like, yo, we should use Acid Music. Like Acid Music, you can like mash up songs in it. And so that's kind of what we started to do. All right, let's mash it up in Acid Music.
Yep.
Started doing that. And then Ableton came along and Logic, and we started to like, okay, well, we can put our own kick drums in here or put our own think breaks when the Baltimore Club stuff came along, and we can start to like produce these mashups. And so that just started evolving and evolving.
Yeah.
And then we were touring from 2005 till about 2009, just everywhere. And around 2009, that whole mashup era was kind of going away, and just like things faded out and the gigs faded with that. And it was just like less and less bookings. And it got to this point.
Yep.
And so 2009 to 2010, Josh and I were just kind of like, all right, we're just going to explore producing. Maybe we can make beats for rappers, but we were doing it in the style of what we did for the mashup. So we would take like a trance song and then put 808 drums over the top.
Yep.
And then that's just kind of what evolved into this like trap era. It was us doing the same thing we did, just on a more advanced level, from the, like I said, mashing up the 2 records to the point of like putting in drums and 808s, and then to the point where we were actually like producing it out a little bit more. And ever since then, we've even been exploring now, and even to the point of the music I'm making now is a lot more sound design intensive. But at the time, there was like not tweaking Serum or Massive and things like that. We were just like samples and mashing things up.
Yeah, I mean, I have such a vivid memory that the Control thing is happening. It's not like quite like it's gotten some sort of recognition, has like a little bit of a name, but we had Clockwork booked, and I was standing in the lobby, and Original Dawn, he plays that, and that comes on, and like I remember I was talking with someone, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and like I leave talking to that person, and walk up to the stage and do the peek over with the CDJs of just like, what's this? Because like that, my personality is that like, I really like different and it's not, I like different and good, but I like when something is like, you know, there's all of this and then something just like stands out as like, well, that's really unique. That's like, oh, I see that it's like blending different things, but that's a, like, I always tell the story of like when I was, one of the agents I was with, they had an office like off of Wilshire, and there would be these like taco trucks that would be in front of the office, and people would like line up at these taco trucks. And there was this one taco truck that would always have like the craziest line. And I remember like asking like, what's that one? And he's like, oh, that one's crazy. What they serve there is they serve Korean barbecue burritos. And so it's Korean barbecue, but with Mexican burritos. And like the other trucks had lines, but that one, it's like, you know, whatever, there's 50 people waiting, you know, for this thing. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, so brilliant. And the guy who actually runs the truck, he's half Korean, half Hispanic. Amazing. And it's like, that is like, oh, that's a recipe. It's like, this is good and this is good, but you haven't had it like this yet. And I just remember like that particular record, I'm like, oh, this is like, and it inspired me. Like that actually was like, oh, okay, I think I am going to try to like, let me wrap some drums, you know, at this tempo and like, you know, cause I think I was making, you know, more 128, you know, house stuff at that time. But when you make that record, do you feel like, you know, in the moment, like, oh, we have something, you know, crazy, or is it just like, oh, that one's cool? Like,
So no, it wasn't that. Honestly, that record was just like seriously like 30 minutes or something like that. Like it took to make it. And the idea was just to kind of make a show edit of the original Don song. Like, so Major Lazer came out with the original Don. And we just asked Diplo, I was like, yo, can we get the stems? He sent them over. And it was just like, well, let's take out the hard style drums at the time and just put the trap drums over it. And it's like, we really didn't do much else to the song. There's like a little bit more of a build up, a couple little switches here and there. But the idea was just to kind of make a quick trap edit in a way, do the mashup thing. And and the simplicity is key in everything. But for that, it was just like, let's just try this out and let's see. And it was like, and it did the thing that you said, like, it was like, oh, whoa, this is a different take on it. And kind of what we've been saying this whole time here is like, it's just like, just doing something a little bit different. Like, how can we express a little bit differently? Everyone else is doing the 128 stuff at the time. Well, let's do it a little different. And what I had said earlier with our parties is we were at that time or before that time mixing Kashmir's Percolator, which is like a 128 song with Laffy Taffy or whatever, like mixing it with like trap drums back to back. So like there are certain songs that work well together. It's just, we started to do it in the studio sense. And it's like, oh, they worked well on the dance floor for years. Let's just try it in a studio session and print it and then have other people play it out. And it worked because we saw it working on the dance floor. I think we had enough years as DJs knowing that these two genres work well together. It always gets a reaction. Let's try to do that on record. Yeah.
Talk to me about, you start something and it's, you know, it's play. It's something that like you're doing for fun. Then it starts to build and then it builds more and then it builds more. And then you find yourself, you know, in front of, you know, tens of thousands of people doing the thing that you love. How did you deal with all of it? Like, how did you take something that was like, I was like, just kind of like messing around. And now there's a business around this thing. There's like, you know, a team, there's people that got to eat. Like, just talk to me about how you dealt with all that.
It's the funny thing is, seriously, 2 seconds before we started this today, I got a message from my team where I'm doing a back-to-back tour with Yellow Claw right now. And they like sent this thing. They said they had a word for like, oh, the sales are doing well, but they said there's like something like the stats are, whatever. I'm like, what is that? I didn't even know what that was.
Sure.
And I was just joking with them. Like, I don't care about that type of stuff as much. Like, of course, ticket sales are good and all of that stuff, but like, seriously, I just want to keep doing cool, creative stuff. And I seriously said that right before this podcast. I don't know if there's a weird reverse thing with all of that, but to your question, all of that pressure, it adds things to the mix that aren't part of what I signed up to do, I guess. And so a lot of that, it inflates ego, it inflates bank account, it inflates a lot of these things that make you question your true self. And for me personally, I think the constant saying yes to shows and touring and all of these things, they just added up over time, and they're all a blessing, and I want to take advantage of all those blessings. But the one thing I learned is, like, once I say yes to so many things, there's a scale there and there's a detriment to myself. Like it was wearing me out so hard. And Josh, who was in Floss, he could speak about it too, I'm sure. But like at the peak of where we were, it was just so much. We were just getting so burnt out at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just like, for me, it was just very overwhelming to like have to handle so many things. And like you said, there's people relying on money and all of these things. So
yeah,
I don't know. I wish that I knew how to manage that better. I wish I came from a place that knew how to manage that, or I had people around me at the time. I've gained a set of skills since then, but like in that moment, it was just so hard. Yeah. And I see a lot of artists blow up and a lot of this stuff happens to them. And there's nothing taught, or it's hard to like find people around you to support that in a sense too. Cause let's say I complain to my friends who I grew up with or whatever. I'm like, man, I just played Vegas and I did this and then I say all these things to them, and it's to them, they're just like, he's complaining about all these like good things and financial successes and all of these things that are wins.
Yes.
And there is still a little bit of like hard, even me saying it now, I feel like I shouldn't be complaining.
Sure.
But I don't know. It was just a lot. It was very overwhelming.
What if there was a school where you could learn to produce music just like your favorite artists, using the best equipment and techniques the industry has to offer? Enter Icon Collective. For nearly 2 decades, Icon Collective has dedicated itself to turning aspiring artists into global sensations. Countless artists such as Slander, Nightmare, Jaws, Keizo, and many more have graduated from Icon Collective. Icon Collective is a school created by artists for artists. Discover the ultimate music education experience. You'll be mentored by top industry professionals who will help you refine your skills and elevate your techniques to a pro level. You'll join a vibrant community of like-minded musicians and artists. Unlock your creative genius and embark on a transformative adventure. Head to iconcollective.edu to learn more.
So when you use the word pressure, so pressure can be a lot of different things. But in that era, what do you feel like the lead emotion that was driving the pressure? Because like sometimes it can be, I remember like having this feeling of guilt that it was like if I said no, that it meant that my team wouldn't eat as much. And then like, oh, they want to book me in Idaho. Like there's people that want to hear that know about like my internet shit in Idaho. And like, who am I to say like, no, I'm not going to come, to Idaho to like an off market thing. I would feel guilt. But like, what do you feel like the lead emotions were like when it came to that pressure?
Well, part of it was I just grew up in the Midwest in like a very blue collar home. And so I was able to have financial success. Now I was able to have success, career success. And so those things were like, well, where I came from, this is huge. So I didn't want to lose that. So part of it is you don't want to lose that, but then that lead pressure of not wanting to lose it makes you fall off from the things that got me to where I was. So like having fun and playing and stuff and experimenting and expressing myself, like I started to like almost like get away from that because it was like, well, this worked before. Let me do that again. Let me do this again. Let me do this again.
It changed the music.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the approach.
Changed the motive, all of that.
Yes.
And so that's the hardest part about it is like, personally, I tended to lean into the things that worked. And before when I was even doing this, it didn't matter. I leaned into the things that worked for the emotional response, the crowd response and those type of things. But I was leaning into the things that worked that were more for like the success things to keep the success going.
Yes.
And then when I realized in hindsight, it's like when you lean into that, that's when it falls apart. It's like, oh, you're doing all of these things to support something that isn't the thing that got you here. So.
And then, but then with that, because it seems like that may not be the driving force now. Yeah. And maybe you don't remember like a specific moment, but what do you think it was that was able to shift your mind out of the like sort of just like, let's just keep it moving. And like, you know, this is work. This is our process. Like, let's just stick with like our process, to then having to like restart. And then like, okay, now I'm, you know, coming at this and trying to, you know, take the knowledge that I have, but almost like go back to that place, you know, that it was like in the beginning, you know, where it felt a little bit more like play. And I don't even know if you got to that place, but it seems like maybe.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many factors. There's the pandemic, which was like a way to pump the brakes.
Yes.
I think pumping the brakes was the thing. Like even right before the pandemic, which was kind of crazy, at the end of 2019, I did my last tour, like right at the end of 2019. And then I took a break. I was going to take a break in all of 2020. I did take a break in all of 2020, but so did the world, which is kind of crazy.
Right.
But I think that's what it was, is just to push brakes and like gather myself again, because I was redlining for all of those years.
Yes.
We had went through the Floss breakup as well. And I was like redlining through that. And there was just a lot of things to process. Like I went through the band breakup, and then that even led to me still redlining, and then ending into like a big breakup with my partner at the time. So a lot of these things I was losing grip on Curt. And like I said earlier, it's like, I always want to be me no matter what with all of this, whether it's the NFT dude or the whatever guy, like I'm just trying to be me throughout all this. And I lost grip with who I was. So the pandemic time helped me do that. And then we can talk about it now, but there's just like a lot of new things I'm doing, approaching it with the same way that I approach the music stuff, but it's in a different world. I'm in the tech side of things now. And that's been inspiring me.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. Cause it's so funny because like I was in it, and then, you know, we started the agency, and I'm still working with people in music, but I myself as an artist was out. So I'm not like producing music anymore, but like I have all of my friends, and they're like, I was like hearing the rumblings, you know, about it. And and I was kind of following what you were doing, and I would just hear sort of things here and there, but like, you know, how do you fall into that world, and, you know, where do you find yourself in there now? Yeah.
And the funny thing is that it's probably for the detriment of what I've been doing, but I'm not that vocal about what I'm doing, like on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm just enjoying this stuff. So you said crate digging. And I think that idea of crate digging for things, finding something and wanting to share it with the world, it's the same thing for all of this stuff, to what I'm doing now, into even within what I'm doing. And I can touch on all of that. But so like I said earlier, I went to school for coding. I've always like done tech stuff, even in Floss. Like in 2011, we did South by Southwest, and I made these Wi-Fi lunchboxes at South by Southwest. And in that time, in that era, we used to go to South by, and it was hard to get cell phone signal and all of that. Or you'd try to get on random Wi-Fis and to see where people were. So I built these like Wi-Fi lunchboxes that if you connected to it, it was like, it had like Linksys, all the Apple networks. It was like broadcasting that out there, so people would auto connect to it. But if they ever tried to go to like Facebook or any of the websites at the time, it only went to our website. So Amazing. It was like, it like hacked their phone in a sense, just to only go to our stuff when they tried to use the internet.
Sick.
So it was a way to almost like do this weird little promotion thing. Yep. And it was like, you were able to actually just like, you would get our music, you were able to get like an icon pack for your phone and like a background, and you got to see where Floss was performing. But it was like, we put them all over South by. So like constantly people are like connecting to this network. Like, what is this? Who's Flosstradamus? Like, why can't I go to Facebook? So I've always been doing tech throughout Flosstradamus, but like during the pandemic, I kind of leaned more into that. And it started out with the whole NFT side of things. And I know a lot of people listening, and when people think NFTs, it definitely has a bad taste in their mouth. And from what had happened, like me, I never really got into the trading side of it. I never got into like the whole PFP things, like the profile pictures and the monkeys and all that stuff. But I always saw the cool side of like, you can do really cool stuff with tech. And so in 2021, I made this vape that you can smoke, but you can also mint NFTs with it. You can plug it in your computer, and it like gives you blockchain assets. And that was the same thing I did with all this music stuff. Is like, I wanted to participate in a culture, but I wanted to do it in a different way. And I was like, well, let's like build some tech. I saw a hole in the NFT space in like the early 21. Like no one was doing physical to digital minting. Like they weren't able to you weren't able to get digital assets with physical things.
Yep.
So I developed this tech to do that. And then that's kind of how I started finding this passion again. Is like, let me just start doing really cool stuff with tech the way that I did the cool stuff with music before. And I didn't have to feel the pressure of, okay, you need to make another big EDM trap banger. You could do really fun, creative stuff in this other place where there isn't any establishment of who I am or anything there. I can just go be me over there.
Yes.
I didn't feel the Flosstradamus pressures over here. I could use the name and I could do cool stuff with the Flosstradamus branding, but like do it in a unique way and express it through tech. And I'll go into like the crate digging side of it. So then I started finding there's this website called GitHub, and there's another one called Hugging Face. Those are pretty much like the SoundCloud hype machine of tech.
Yep.
And so I would just go onto these websites and find all this code that people contributed. And it was like, wow, you can take this piece of code and this piece of code, and then you can make things. And so I started doing that. And I was like finding all sorts of random things on how to do voice cloning and watermarking and all of these things you could do with all this cool tech stuff. And I started doing what I did with music. Let me take the trap drums and the EDM synths and push them together. Let me take this code base and this code base and push it together. And then I can go into the business side of things too, but that's just like what was the seed to me getting into doing stuff in tech again.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like you're using the exact same mind. It's the same muscle.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about like the mashup thing, mashup turn like production, is that like you're a DJ who's in the club.
Yeah.
So you know when you're at, in your studio and you're making something, you've had those experiences that it's like, oh, I think that this would be not only something we could play, but this would also be useful to other DJs. And this could also be like a useful tool. So the fact that like, you have practically used different pieces of tech for yourself and you're in the club, and like you're not, because I think that there's a difference between like developers and sometimes like coders or engineers that like they create something and they're like, oh, I know how to create a thing. But then there's the actual, how is this going to get used? This, it's almost like early synthesizers or whatever. It's like they made a thing, but I don't think they knew like how we were going to use it. That it's like, oh, well, we can, even turntables, right? It's like turntables weren't, how we use them. It's not like how they were intended. So it's really, I think it's so cool that like, you are in that world and like, and it actually makes like, for you, you're just living your life, but like as an outsider, it actually like, it makes sense for the narrative of like, what your perspective's been. I do think it's so funny though, that it's like, you keep saying like, but in a different way. Like you'll tag that at the end of something that it's like, or something you're describing. And like that, to me, it's like you have that as a filter. Like that filter's just on. And that's what I think a lot of this, like for people that are listening, it's like just that little bit of a sentence, to me, it actually equals interesting. It doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, that's going to work just because like it's different or because like it's unique. But to me, it's just like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I haven't seen that yet. Or like, that's, I have had a bunch of friends that are telling me that like, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm using Curt's stuff. And like just how you use it is like so crazy. And I think that now even hearing the part about contribution of like, now you're in that space and it's like you're contributing in that space, and how like other producers, it's like, oh man, like I know how I might use this, but I wonder how like they would use it.
Well, I was gonna say for that side of what this is too is like, so when I like the original Don remix we said a minute ago, like we made that as a tool for us because we knew it would kind of work, but then we heard all the other DJs use it as a tool, and all these people are getting that wow moment, and so the ripple effect by developing the taste that we developed to make that, we're able to see the ripple effect amongst all of our other DJ friends playing it, and then those people being affected. And I love that. And I think this new era of what I'm doing with all the AI stuff is like, I get to do that 10x, whatever X, there's a million more X. I get to create a tool now. And then now this tool can be used by everyone to express themselves. So that is actually I don't even know what the exponential is on that. So it's like, I see the holes in things and what needs to be made. And then I give this, now there's a tool now that people can use. So I was giving people DJ tools before, but now I'm giving them like, production tools to now do the same thing. And now they can express themselves with the thing. So I might have touched a bunch of other people's DJ sets with my songs, but now I'm touching their productions, and then those are touching people. So for me, that ripple effect is crazy if I were to look at it on like how I'm trying to affect culture in a way.
Ever wonder how top artists in the music industry have such compelling and engaging brands? The difference between successful music brands and everyone else are well thought out and well executed brand stories. But how can you build a strong brand story of your own? The Cult Creatives and Bass Clef present Integrity Amplified, an online course explaining how to properly build a brand and stand out without sacrificing your artistic integrity. Integrity Amplified gives insight into how some of the largest brands in the world were constructed and how you can apply the same techniques to your own brand. This course is designed for music producers who want to elevate their brand to the next level. Whether you're looking to expand your audience, get signed, or simply carve out your niche, Integrity Amplified offers you the tools and strategies you need to create your brand and achieve your goals at a rapid pace. Go to bassclef.com/integrity-amplified for more information. Integrity Amplified. Take the elevator, not the stairs.
You start thinking about impact and just like, how can I use the things that I've learned and like use my creativity and like have there be a level of impact? And it seems like that's kind of what you're talking about, is that like, oh, you know, when, you know, your sets, you affected people's night. Like when you're, you know, in the early days, it's like, you know, if people, they're having a bad day or whatever, it's like they come, they see you, it's like, oh man, this is great. Like, you know, life's good. And then, yes, like I would argue that particular record, the same way where it's like, you look at Justice, Cross, and like that to me started a whole movement. I do feel like Original Dawn remix, that started a whole movement. And it was like, oh, and it was like, we're now in, you know, trap era. And like, I just remember like, you know, when we were programming, you know, for Control, and like, I'm like, this is it, like right now. And like, it's the most interesting stuff that's happening and the people that are making it. I even remember like the way that we would always book that party is that it wasn't the traditional way where like agents, a lot of time they'll sign something new. They send you an email and they're like, hey, I just signed so-and-so. We're really excited about them. Here's their music. We think they'd be a great fit, which is that's their job. Yeah. But the way that we would book the event is that it was either I was finding stuff or my partner was finding stuff, or there was a thread. And there was this thread where I would just like hit the homies and I'd be like, what are y'all into right now? And I remember like Valentino Khan, he texts in and he's just like, DJ Snake. He's like, he's this dude in Paris. He made this track Bird Machine. He's like, you got to hear it. And so the first time Snake came out to the US, he played for us with no sunglasses on.
That's amazing.
And like, and we would do these like showcases where it'd be like trap showcase. And like, because we thought like the audience, I'm like, my kids, like they're hip, like they know what's up, and like they're down to hear like new things that are coming. But I feel like it was the beginning of a whole movement that I think finding where dance music and indie and hip hop like all like converged and lived in a similar space, that like opened up the whole culture. So like, you know, you seem to be like a pretty humble person, but it's like just by your creativity and just like, oh, that'd be cool. You know, like we would use that for us and maybe it'd be valuable to other people. It then just becomes like a movement, you know?
The idea of the movement isn't part of it. Like, that's not the motivation. I don't know. Like, I like being part of movements or like seeing it, like dipping my toes into like dance music or any of those. Like, it was cool to be part of that. But like, I get in there, like I said, this whole time is just like, I want to get into it, exist, but like, and be part of that. Cause that feels so awesome to be at the ground level of things is so amazing.
It's exciting.
It's so exciting.
It is.
I love it. And like going to these shows and experiencing different genres, I love that. And same with like all this tech stuff too. It's like, this is something new and exciting to me. So I want to get into it. And I do. And I get into the AI stuff, the NFT stuff, and even like the young kids like ISO, and Knock 2. Like I was going to some of their first shows here in LA and just seeing the like ground level of what this is. And like, oh, this is going to be big. Like
you knew.
It's that feeling is so cool. And I'm so, out of all the things I've been blessed to be a part of, is just to be at the ground level of a lot of things.
Yes.
And like, I don't know. And I don't know if it's something that I just like find or I'm just like intrigued, but like, I'm always just like, what's next? What's next? What's cool? And like, I like to get into it and participate in it and exist there and contribute however I can. And that's been my main goal with it. Like, yeah, the movements can be whatever they are, but like it's not like I'm movement motivated or anything. It's just that like there's a feeling that happens there. It's probably similar to the feeling you felt when you were playing that song for your mom, that like somatic feeling you feel when you like just know something. Like, I don't know. And for me, I feel that when I see this stuff, there's like, wow, there's like a feeling there that like you can't describe, words can't describe it in that ground level of discovery.
Yeah, because it's the intuition that you're searching for. Like, I do think that creativity and being a creative person, I do think that you open yourself up in a way that maybe, other people are not. Because you're, just by nature of what we do, you're constantly asking yourself, how do I feel? What do I think? Is this good? Is this not? You're like, it is unfortunately an analytical, overly critical type mind. But like what comes with that is like a level of sensitivity and like just feeling and just feeling like, ooh, like this is nice. Like there's nobody like swimming over here. Yeah. Like this feels like open, or just like, ooh, like this used to be open, but now it's like, ah, man, there's like so many, people swimming and like there's trash in the water. And, it's like, I don't know, like I don't feel like as comfortable, as maybe I once did. It's like a running joke with my wife. Like she always says, she's like, you love the beginning of everything. Like she's like, you love the beginning. I'm like, of course I love the beginning, because like the beginning is where like the magic is, and like that's when something is the most pure. That it's like once in it with any business, as it should, you have all these components of just like finding patterns and like, making it formulaic, and just like how can you repeat so that you can, keep the same business or grow the business. But when something is just like in the state of invention or like, creation, and like you're just like doing something because like nobody was like, hey, Curt, we think that you'd be great at, this AI stuff, and we'd like you to come over here, and we're going to give you this offer, and, we're going to put you in this position, and can you please create these things for me? It's like, you're doing it because of that same, like, that seems interesting. And let me go dig over there. I'm intellectually stimulated, by this thing, and you're chasing that.
Skull Candy products are made for an on-the-go lifestyle. Headphones, earbuds, and speakers all deliver premium quality sound and a unique sonic experience tuned to you. With active noise-canceling technology, Skull Candy products are sweat, water, and dust resistant. Test for yourself with free shipping on orders over $99. Be prepared for skull-thumping, bone-rattling sound. For the ultimate immersive audio experience, choose Skull Candy. Break free from ordinary audio. Skull Candy, for your head.
I think, the pressure that you were talking about before, as much as you can be in that state, of course, there are, the business side of things and logistics and staffing and marketing and promotion and, all of that. But really, like, I think that being in that state, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're making a song, you're creating an app, you're painting a painting, that it's like, how do I feel? And like, what am I trying to say? Like that really is if you stay in that place, because the rest of it's just like the voices.
Yeah. And over time too, like the beginning of things is nice. There's love there. There's trust there. There's all these things in the beginning, whether it's relationships, art, all of these things.
Yep.
But I think there's ways to sustain that throughout as well. Like,
yes.
So I don't know, like I've over time, I've been into tech and into music, into, like I said, mopeds, all these things.
Yep.
But like over time, some of that flicker fades. But I think I've learned in my old age, there's ways to actually like sustain that, like that initial innocence that happens in the beginning of things.
Talk to me about that. Like what do you think are some tools or methods that it's like, oh, you're now past the beginning stage of this.
Yeah.
How do you continue to sort of have the love, for it and, devotion and all that.
I think for like relationships or any of these things is find that initial seed, I guess. So for me I've been really into music again, like producing music again. And I'm like, I'm approaching it how it was when I first started it. Like how I was producing for like a while was just very jaded. I was in it and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I've found that in relationship too with people as well. Like, it's like, I'm in this, like, we've been together for X amount of time or whatever. And there's like there's all sorts of baggage and there's like a lot of weight around it.
Yeah.
And I'm approaching the relationship from that viewpoint that I'm currently at, but I'm like, no, let's go back to this initial innocence. How can we get back there? How can you and I connect again? And then now we can actually get back to that innocence level. And there's many ways to do that. And I've done it with partnership, but I'm also doing it in partnership with my art as well, or any of these things. And so let's say the business side, let's go back to like the creative side. So the business stuff comes in and it's like, it feels to me, it feels weird. I don't want to deal with all this stuff.
Yeah.
How can I approach the business side of things with that same innocence? How can I approach it with like, okay, how can I have fun? How can I play with this? Like, and understand it in a different perspective. I think over time, like a plaque builds up on everything and creation and relationships and things like that like, how can I get back to that original feeling together with me and the art, me and the person, things like that. And how can I like build that and exist in that place? Because at one point it was there.
Well, it almost sounds like you're like, if you ask the question in therapy or counseling, it's like, if it's a relationship or a marriage, they'll often say like, date your spouse.
Yeah.
So you're not married.
Yeah.
You should pretend as though you're dating, and you need to win this person's affection like you did in the beginning, and just pretend. If you ask the question, like, how would I do this differently if we were dating? If I was trying to like, I didn't have this in the bag and I needed to win this, like, what would I do different? And like what you're talking about is exactly that, but it's the relationship with the art or the relationship with the thing that you're trying to build, that it's like, well, how would I date this?
Yeah.
Like, how would I, and it's so interesting because it's true. Like when you're first starting out, whatever it is, it's like, you don't really know and you're just kind of trying to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh, there's an outcome or result, that's attached to why you're doing it.
You're trying to discover the person, you're trying to discover whatever it is in the art. So yeah, for me, that's what it is. I'm just trying to go to that spot and just try to find not something new, but just like, I don't know, get to that innocence discovery phase of whatever it is. And taking it to a partner, there's always things you can learn about them. There's always things that you can discover. There's always things that they can discover about you. And I like that in relationship. And then same with music or art in general. It's like, I can still discover new things in it. And taking it away from relationship, but even in like the creation side of things, like maybe it isn't music today, but maybe it's something visual. And I can actually like, well, maybe I'm just not feeling the music side of things. Let me go to be creative over here in the visual side of things and discover something there so that I can go back. I love how we compared it to relationship. It's almost like, let me go cheat and then come back. But for me, it is like that. It's just this different, I don't know, find a different passion somewhere else. And then it helps me come back to what to creation of music. Like all this AI stuff has made me so stoked on making music again.
Yeah.
And I can even go talk into what I'm doing in these companies, but like, that is like, I'm approaching music with a different perspective now.
Is it just because you're like in the zone? Like, it's just you're feeling like the creative zone? Or is it that like, this is like, oh, I'm seeing this way, and then I'm going to apply that to like my music?
Yeah. I think I'm just approaching it. I think it's all of the things I've been saying today. Just like I'm approaching creativity and all these things differently as a new person, but I think it is also the tools and the new methods. So to talk about the AI stuff. So I've been advising this company called Suno, and you can prompt a song. You can just type in, I want an 80s funk song about being at Skull Candy, whatever. And it can make it whatever, but the thing I've really loved with that is it's trained on like all of music. This algorithm is trained on like all of music. So me, as like how I produce music back in the day, I would like to find different things and put them together and create music. So now I can say, I want this 80s funk song about somatic, whatever. And then now I have a custom curated crate digging sample for myself to now use in my music.
Wow.
And then that thing that I get, that thing that the AI spits back to me, it like, I might have to do it 10 different times, but like that 10th one that comes back, I'm like, oh my God, this just feels so good. And that same connection I had of pulling that vinyl out of the record and listening to it at the record store, I'm getting that now with the AI generated music. And then I get inspired and I'm like, oh my God. And then I'll take it over to Ableton and take it to one of my apps that I built to stem separate it and like add new drums and start remixing it. And like within 15 minutes, I'm lost. I'm like in a flow state just based on this initial inspiration. So for me, it's been amazing. I'm able to create music genres I never really was able to create now with this stuff. And like, I just get to expand I felt so boxed in when it came to music for so long, whether it was like, I have to be this Flosstradamus sound or I have to be this or whatever. But now all of these things I've always wanted to make, I can make now. And that has just like kept me so creative lately. I love it.
You like think about retirement. Like it's like, you know, people talk about retirement and I was like sitting here, I'm like, this he's not going to retire. Like this is like, because it just seems like even from the beginning that it's like, you know, one, it maybe isn't necessarily work. You know, it gets to be work whenever it's like, you know, you're leaving the show at 4 a.m. and then you have a 7 a.m. flight and they just take you straight to the airport. You don't go back to the hotel. Like, and you're just, you know, in the airport, you know, waiting. That is work. But, you know, the creative pursuits and endeavors, it's like, it just seems like it's a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's exciting now that like we have a little bit of runway and, you know, we can sort of, you know, look at things retrospectively and, you know, like what, you know, you have created to this point. But that's like, for me as a fan, like I'm a fan of Curt and I'm a fan of Flosstradamus. Like I'm so excited to see where you go and like, you know, because this is a chapter.
Yeah.
Like what you're doing right now is a chapter and then there'll be another chapter and another chapter. And like, I think that that's the exciting thing about being a creative. Like, and I also think that when you do feel like you're locked into something and you have like, you're so wrapped in that identity, like this is who I am, you do have that opportunity to be like, you know what, I am going to start a new chapter. And there's really only one person telling me I can't, and that's me.
Yeah.
And you might have like, you know, management or teams or friends telling you maybe don't do a thing. But I think that that's like, just hearing the story to me is like, it's just very encouraging. And I think it's also like super inspiring. And I know you're just like being you, sort of like, you know, cruising. But it's awesome. So glad we got to have this conversation. I think maybe as like the last thing, I'd be curious for young creatives, somebody that it really doesn't matter what the medium is, like whether it's music or tech or fine art. What do you think like now having, you know, you still have so much more to do in your life, but like having experiences that you've had and having this view, you know, from this point in the mountain, like what would be like a key piece of advice that you would give to a young creative person as they're like beginning their pursuit?
I mean, that always changes. I bought this necklace. This is the reason why I'm bringing this up. I brought this chain at Slauson Flea Market down on the south side, and it's a cuckoo clock. It's a little teeny cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it stood out to me. It's like some weird little chain.
Yep.
But the reason why I'm wearing it is because a lot of times in my career, so many people said I was crazy. Like, you're crazy, you're cuckoo, you're whatever. So like I've always heard that with everything, with like so many different things, whether it's the mashup stuff or the trap stuff, whatever. There's all these points in my career or whatever it is of my creative process where people didn't see it the way I saw it, but I saw it this way. And maybe I'm not, my batting average isn't 100, but I still was doing it for me. And there was times I was doing it for other people too, and it didn't work. Yep. But the times I did it for the cuckoo crazy side of me, that is what meant the most for me in the long run. And I just trusted myself. So trust yourself, develop your taste, and just believe in yourself. And you might be cuckoo sometimes, but that's okay. To you, you're truthful, you're honest.